On a cold January evening in 2023, a Massachusetts mother made a choice that would leave her family shattered and a nation stunned. Lindsay Clancy, a 32-year-old labor and delivery nurse, was known for her kindness and devotion to her children. But what unfolded in the Clancy home that night led to 3 dead children, a paralyzed mother, and one of the most controversial ongoing trials in recent memory. Was this the work of postpartum psychosis, or the calculated act of a woman with a plan? In this video, we'll walk through the full timeline, from Lindsay's early life to the crime, investigation, and current legal battle, as we try to understand what really happened inside that home. The shock, confusion, and legal questions surrounding this tragedy have ignited national debates about mental health, motherhood, and justice. It serves as a haunting example of how quickly a picture-perfect life can descend into unimaginable horror, forcing society to confront gaps in mental health support. 2. Background: a devoted nurse and mother. Lindsay Musgrove was born in 1990 and grew up in a happy, supportive household. She pursued a degree in biology and nursing, eventually specializing in neonatal care, a role that allowed her to care for new mothers and premature babies. Lindsay's dream was always to become a mother herself. She married Patrick Clancy in 2016, and soon after, they welcomed 3 children, Cora, Dawson, and Callan. To those around her, Lindsay seemed like the ideal mother, attentive, compassionate, and deeply involved in her kids' lives. But as time passed, cracks began to show beneath the surface. Close friends later admitted they noticed signs of exhaustion and emotional imbalance, but they chalked up the struggles of motherhood. Her life looked perfect on the outside, but internally, she was battling a storm no one could fully see. Despite her career and caring for others, Lindsay may have lacked the help she desperately needed herself, raising concerns about untreated maternal stress. 3. Timeline: the days leading up to January 24th. In the months following the birth of their 3rd child in May 2022, Lindsay began to exhibit signs of postpartum depression. She admitted herself to a psychiatric hospital for 5 days in early January 2023, diagnosed with severe postpartum depression and possible psychosis. On January 24th, she took her daughter to a pediatric appointment, played in the snow with her kids, ordered dinner, and appeared composed. But within an hour of her husband Patrick leaving to pick up food, everything changed. Lindsay attempted suicide by jumping out of a window. When Patrick returned home, he found her injured and the children strangled in the basement. The quick progression from routine activities to unimaginable horror left investigators and the public grappling for an explanation. Each moment of that day is now being analyzed for signs of planning or collapse. Her behavior that day remains central to understanding whether this was a snap decision or one fueled by deep, hidden turmoil. For investigation, psychiatric collapse, or premeditation, Lindsay told first responders she had heard voices instructing her to kill the children and herself. Investigators uncovered evidence of her mental decline through social media posts, medical prescriptions, and journal entries. However, prosecutors argue the murders were premeditated. Lindsay researched medications, placed calls, and even coordinated dinner pickup before committing the crime. They claim her ability to function and plan contradicts her plea of psychosis. No mention of delusions was found in her journals, and her call to Patrick just before the killings appeared coherent. Police reviewed electronic devices, browsing history, and communications in search of clarity, each piece of evidence contributing to a polarized narrative between 2 vastly different interpretations of her actions. The defense maintains her mind was not her own, while the prosecution sees a woman hiding intentions beneath a mask of control and normalcy. 5. Breakthrough: the voices in the diary. According to Patrick, Lindsay mentioned hearing a man's voice urging her to commit the act, but she had never shared this before the tragedy, not with doctors, therapists, or even in her journals. The prosecution sees this as a convenient narrative introduced post-crime. However, Lindsay's defense emphasizes the gravity of postpartum psychosis, citing hallucinations, confusion, and a complete break from reality as hallmark symptoms. The case now hinges on the jury's interpretation of Lindsay's mental state at the time of the murders. Her diary is being scrutinized line by line. Psychiatric experts from both sides are expected to testify, making the trial not just about what she did, but who she was in that moment. Every word and every omission is now a potential clue, turning Lindsay's private thoughts into public evidence in a high-stakes courtroom battle. 6. The trial, pain, defense, and public reaction. Lindsay currently remains in hospital, paralyzed from the waist down due to her suicide attempt. She faces charges of murder and manslaughter, and if convicted, could face life in prison. The public remains split. Some call for accountability, while others believe she was failed by the healthcare system. Patrick Clancy has made statements urging people to forgive Lindsay, describing her as a loving mother who was not herself during those final days. The court must now weigh medical complexity against criminal responsibility. Witness testimonies from therapists, psychiatrists, and family friends are expected to play a central role. The outcome will likely influence future cases involving mental health as a legal defense. Jurors must navigate emotionally charged evidence while determining if mental illness excuses or explains Lindsay's irreversible actions on that tragic night. 7. Outcome and current status, awaiting judgment. As of now, the case remains ongoing. Lindsay is confined to a hospital bed and may never walk again. Patrick has shown remarkable forgiveness, raising funds through GoFundMe and focusing on healing. Public debate continues around whether the justice system should take postpartum psychosis into account when considering sentencing. The tragedy has inspired discussions on maternal mental health and the need for greater intervention and awareness. Legal experts note that this case could set precedent for how postpartum psychosis is treated in American courts. Media outlets continue to cover every development, with millions waiting to see how justice will interpret this unimaginable act. Questions still linger about how many warning signs were missed and whether better early intervention could have made a difference in saving lives. 8. Legacy, mental health, awareness, and reform. Lindsay Clancy's case is not just about one woman or one family. It's about systemic failures in recognizing and treating postpartum mental illness. Advocates now call for better education for new parents, routine mental health screenings post-birth, and improved support systems. The Clancy tragedy could become a catalyst for change, ensuring that future mothers in distress are heard and helped before it's too late. Legislators in Massachusetts are already discussing bills that address postpartum psychiatric care. Support groups and nonprofits have started using Lindsay's story as an example of what happens when warning signs are missed. Her case has placed maternal mental health at the center of national policy discussions. The need for public education, hospital resources, and destigmatized treatment options is clearer now than ever before. 9. Conclusion. A family loss, a nation reflects. This case forces us to confront difficult questions. Can someone deeply loving also be capable of horror when their mind betrays them? Was Lindsay a cold, calculated killer, or a mother overtaken by a deadly condition she didn't choose? We want to hear from you. Should postpartum psychosis be a legal defense? Could this tragedy have been prevented with earlier intervention? What lessons can society learn? Please like, comment, and subscribe to support awareness around maternal mental health, and help us explore more stories that matter. Let's make sure the Clancy children are never forgotten, and no other family has to endure what theirs did. Your voice matters. Let's keep the conversation going and push for the changes that can save lives. Together, we can create a world that listens, supports, and protects before tragedy has a chance to strike.